slate. Another big shout out, Sheets. Third in the monster, the lottery.
The lottery, yeah.
A little bit about that, and then we'll jump into today's slate.
I mean, we could pull up the lineup, but again, wasn't even a lineup because it was just part of a big. Remember, I built. Hey, listen, I did build it on the stream. Remember that 50 that MME build that I put in there, and it was the last one I did when the guy said when I was showing the guy literally how to do it. Remember, he's like, "How do you adjust the teams?" I'm like, "Oh, let's just do it." So we did it this way, and ended up with one of them.
Yeah,
one of them getting there. So let me pull that particular lineup up.
It's funny because I hand built like 4 lineups, and Gavin Williams was in one of them. But yeah, he was 1% owned in that tournament, so it's pretty amazing when you get the top scorer at like 1%.
Yes, this is what we did. Let's share the screen as well.
Yeah.
So this was the actual lineup. Oh, you know what we could do something interesting. So this was the actual lineup that got there. We did talk about Milwaukee and the Mets. I did talk about that. Remember, you said, "Come on, push me." All right, fine, Milwaukee and the Mets. I said Milwaukee, Mets, and Yankees. Those are the 3 at the end. Yeah, it was right there at the end. Josh Engelman, he's a good player. Obviously, he's been stochastic. He was around me. I missed him by 0.25 for second at the end, but the winner had Sandoval and Peralta actually.
Oh, Sandoval had a good game, yeah.
Yeah, but the hero was these guys all got me with a freaking with a Mendick home run at 1% in like the 9th or something like that. Yeah. Actually, the winner didn't have him. I was really never catching this guy for some reason.
Yeah. Lineup number 22. That's my
lineup number 22. But you know what we can do? Let's be at least somewhat intelligent. Let's what I want to do is let's pull up, and this is what you could do. You could do this. Let's pull up the actual build from yesterday, the last one that we did, and just see like what % of these turkeys we ended up having at the end of this. So let's see. So this was and I did put the last thing I did put unique players number 2. So that's why I'm gonna get a little more random. So I ended up with if we look at the pitchers, I ended up with a total of 1 lineup with Gavin Williams in it.
Oh my God, it is the one. That's crazy.
Right? And that was the one, right? And then, because remember what I did was I manually upgraded Cole. Thanks. Good job, Sheets. And dude, but you know who freaking smashed? It was freaking my 20% Cole Reagan.
Yeah, there you go.
But he was paired with Strider everywhere.
Oh no.
Right? And then as far as the team stacks go, I ended up like 8% Milwaukee, right? But that happened to be the one that just got there, I guess. And then and 16% Mets. So none of my top plays got there, but I get a shout out to SaberSim. It did its job, and the 2 little adjustments I made, which I thought were important, actually, were where I remember I manually got myself less Kansas City because I just didn't believe it, right? And I got myself 2 min uniques instead of 1. So who knows? That decision may very well have gotten me that lineup. So
yeah,
well, that's awesome, we'll go with that. How about that?
Yeah, congratulations again. Another
skill game.
Red hot right now. Can't miss. So while you talk for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to listen because I am going down the opposite range. I need to get some luck. Maybe I need to play 22 lineups into something and see if I can get something going. Anyway,
all right. So let's pull this up.
Get into it.
So let's start with Houston, Baltimore. First of all, this is obviously you guys should know this by now. We're betting Baltimore on the money line. Coming off the Valdez no-hitter, that's for sure. But aside from that, let's talk about this. I guess I'll start. I am not getting to Valdez at all tonight. I just the way my pitching is broken down. I have 1 top guy, and then like 8 guys that could be my SP2. As a matter, I shouldn't say that. I do have Valdez as one of the 8 other guys, but I can't. I'll end up paying like too much, I think, if I double pay up for pitching. So I don't think I'm going to get to him. I am getting to Rodriguez a lot though at 6,900. as an SP2. So that's my concept is Rodriguez is one of my 8 SP2s, and I'm not getting to either of the hittings here.
Yeah, we're pretty much same page here. Don't really have a whole lot of interest in this game in general. Rodriguez, I have some interest in. If it was a small slate like yesterday, I would be saying, hey, we should be throwing some Houston stacks in there. But this is not the time to do it, I don't think. So I'm okay with the idea of Rodriguez. Even Valdez, I don't think is terrible. I'm just probably not going to end up playing it. So may as well move on. All right, Atlanta and Pittsburgh. What are you doing in this one?
Well, this is going to be whatchamacallit, the Groundhog Day or whatever. But Atlanta is, until further notice, like Atlanta's just going to rate as the top projected play on the slate, regardless of who.
Pretty much all the time.
Yeah, unless it's like the Dodgers in Colorado or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's funny that even though, I mean, their matchup isn't as good as it could be here, because Keller's obviously not bad. They're still projecting really, really well.
Yeah.
You know, they're just hitting. They're just great hitters this year. I don't know. So I'd like to get to some of them in both DraftKings and in FanDuel. It's difficult, and that's something we're going to be saying every day as well. And so to do that, you probably have to double pay down for pitcher, which is something else we're going to be saying every day for until these guys are under 6,500. So I guess that's pretty much all I have. I don't have any Pittsburgh. I don't have any Keller, and I don't have any Chirinos.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think Atlanta is like as the same kind of priority, because I do have some respect for Keller, although he's been struggling more lately. I'm fine. I'm good with Atlanta. I'm not really trying to get to other pieces of this game. I don't think using Pittsburgh pieces is a bad idea. You're going to have Palacios probably leading off at 2.3. Henry Davis probably batting cleanup around 2.7. Rivas is 2.2. They're just so cheap. Andy Rodriguez is 2.5. I think Pittsburgh actually might be kind of interesting to get at least some exposure to, whether or not you stack them or not. They're really cheap, and Chirinos in the somewhat bullpenny situation, I think, is a good enough spot and a good hitting conditions and all that. So I'm good with it. All right, next up, KC and Boston. I'll go real quick on this one because I love the idea of playing Brady Singer. I understand that there's variance, and this is baseball. We should embrace it. Brady Singer has been really good. Like, he's back to being, sort of when I feel like when Sheets started using him last year, started talking about him, I think Brady Singer is extremely reasonable, and I think that Cutter Crawford is extremely reasonable. So these are both high-end SP2s. I think people are afraid of Boston in these situations. We saw yesterday just how inept this offense is. Now, one thing that's different is they're worse against lefties, and they should have Trevor Story back today. So you'd also get Verdugo back in the lineup against righties. So I'm like, it's not as good a spot, and it's 78 degrees with wind blowing out in Boston. But I'm Brady Singer. I'm telling you, every single time he goes on the mound, there's like a 5 or 6 run projection for the other team. And the guy hasn't given up. He's given up more than 2 runs hasn't given up more than 2 runs in a start in his last 4 starts. Has only given up twice in the last 8 starts. I think that there's a real good case for Singer and Crawford here as SP2s, or just if you're double spending down.
I have all 4 prongs of this game as being playable. Another thing that should be, go on Groundhog Day, just repeat, is Kansas City shows up as good value literally every day. And today's no exception. Boston is showing up as one of the top combinations of value and upside and all that on the day. And this has been common also in kind of weaker matchups. Now, not that Brady Singer is bad, but I mean, he's not as good as top pitchers. And yet, on the other side of the mound, I think both pitchers are viable, exactly like you said. I prefer Crawford to Singer, but he's going to be twice the ownership as Singer as well. So I guess that's got to make up for it. Not. I don't mean to imply that Crawford's going to be like huge chalk or anything like that, but maybe Crawford 12%.
Yeah,
something like that. Singer 7, something like that. But what were you saying?
Singer's not going to be owned. Nobody plays against Boston in Boston. I think Singer will be unowned.
Right. So yeah, I do like all 4 prongs of this game, and you could play the Singer side will be pretty unowned. Crawford, I think, will get some ownership because people play everybody against Kansas City. And the Boston's hitting will be definitely owned. I don't think Kansas City is going to be particularly owned, so I haven't learned my lesson with them yet. So I'll probably, and it's funny, like I played them yesterday, and it's great. Like see Bobby Witt come and hits a double all the way ball. Hey, let's go! And like 30 seconds later, he's still on second base,
Yeah.
and everybody else is in the dugout because the inning's over, right? And then, like, God forbid, someone gets a single, like the next batter hits into a double play. It's like it's just horrible.
Yeah.
But that's what you get. That's what you get when you play $2,800 players most of the time.
Well, especially yesterday, in yesterday's case, against a really, really good pitcher. I never understood the Kansas City.
Against the guy who keeps the ball literally on the ground.
Yeah, and he's literally has given up nothing. Like, I'm just like, okay, maybe take a bat. But
I'm sitting there, ooh, cool, it's 2-2. I have a chance for extra innings. Like, great.
That's what you end up with, I guess.
That's what we get. Anyway, I do like all four prongs of this, and probably. Well, I force it. I might. I think
Boston is more expensive than people realize if their lineup is.
You could be right.
Because you're gonna if Story comes back in, he's 5,200. Verdugo's 38. He'll probably be in like the 6 or 7 hole. They've got Cass is up from 2,300 to 3,800. Both Duran and Yoshida are expensive, and they've shown a willingness to use these to use the righties they've got against lefties, which I don't understand entirely why, because they're such bad righties like Rep Snyder and all that. Anyway, we can move on. I just was thinking a little bit more about that one. Chicago and New York. This is another really weird, like, I think that I think both these pitchers you could have on your list for SP2s, but as you're going to see a little bit of today, like sort of like Sheets was saying with the Boston game, I think that all the prongs are viable in this one also. I think I would prefer the Cubs over anything else. But it's probably worth noting that Taillon has been very solid, especially for a guy who's 6,700. So he deserves to be on the list. And I think the Cubs are a better stack than the Mets are, but I have no problem if you want to go to the Mets. We've seen Carrasco just get lit up 3 times in a row now. This might be his last chance, like for a while. Actually, it's the Mets, so they probably give anybody a chance who's willing to play for them right now. But I do think the Cubs are very, very strong play tonight, and I think the Mets are fine.
You're going to get a $2,100 Vogelback coming back tonight, which is for the Mets. So that's something to think about. I have the Cubs as one of the top 3 options on the board. Listen, we've been through this. Carrasco stinks, and the Cubs score 400 runs a game. There's just no way I'm not playing Chicago here. That's just the bottom line. Taillon, I agree with you. I think he's kind of. I think he could be kind of sneaky here. Mets had a very long night last night. They were into the 7th inning, and then they hit like a late rain delay that went on to like 11 o'clock at night. And so I think Taillon's definitely in play as an SP2. I don't think I'm going to go back to the Mets tonight, but I will definitely play the Cubs.
Yeah, I think that's the way that I probably would want to go as well. Why don't you start off the Toronto Cleveland?
Yes, that's right. We skipped.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went around.
Oh, no, that's okay. Right. So I have Kikuchi as one of the 8 SP2s I can play. I didn't get to BB at 9,500, and I don't see any of the hitting here. So for me, it's just Kikuchi as one of the SP2s and no hitting.
Yeah, I really haven't run into hardly any hitting that I like. I'm sorry, hardly any pitching that I like yet. Everybody, I feel like I sort of like the Taillon thing. I sort of like Singer, Crawford, but I'm not like excited. I don't like feel like safe about any of those plays. This just feels like a game that I probably don't end up getting to. I think Bibby is very talented, but I don't want to play him at this price against the Blue Jays. And Kikuchi is also, solid, but like it's still Cleveland, who doesn't, offer that much upside in terms of strikeouts. They also might have a little bit of a lineup shakeup today. Not that it makes a huge difference, but I know they got Ramon Laureano from the A's. I'm just curious how their lineup shakes out because they may end up looking really cheap, and I think it's just another team you can consider using some value. We're just going to have that overwhelming number of value from different spots because people are still on new teams and trying to figure things out, and there's just a lot of weirdness going on. So, long story short, I guess it's probably nothing for me in this game. You got Yankees and White Sox next?
No, I have Colorado and Milwaukee next.
It still baffles me just how just even the chances, it should at least sometimes, and it is sometimes right, but it's like 25% of the time. I don't All right. Go ahead.
So no pitching for me here, although I'm expecting to get the usual Bobby Wade Miley take that always seems to get there. But I'm not getting to any of the pitching. As far as the hitting goes, I shout out to my two heroes, the leaders of the free world, the Freelick and my favorite guy who's hitting 7th and 8th every day is the Turang. Like the guy's a freaking genius.
Yeah.
Every time I play him, he hits like 4 home runs.
Yeah.
And he's got like 3 home runs lifetime, which is quite amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Turang and Freelick are like my two heroes. So I like Milwaukee a little bit. But here's it was a really big difference. They're really extra cheap on FanDuel. Like Adames is back and he's like 2,800 or something like that. So Milwaukee's very, very price friendly on FanDuel. So I have them listed as actually one of my top options on FanDuel. DraftKings, I'm not getting to them as much, but they're certainly second tier at least. So I would say I'll default to Bobby's Wade Miley opinion if there is one, and some Milwaukee, definitely on FanDuel, maybe on DraftKings.
Yep. I'm basically off this game. I am interested that Wade, this is one of the lowest totals in the slate for Colorado, and it is a good matchup. I need to dig more into why Wade Miley only pitched to 17 batters in his last game. That kind of threw me off a little bit. So I just need to dig a little bit into that and try to understand it better because it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yeah, simple as that, I guess. All right.
Now we get the Yankees White Sox.
Yankees White Sox. All right. I'll go real quick then, I guess. No interest in the pitching for me, and I do have the Yankees as one of the stacks that I like today. Which you have some like a nice blend of cheap and expensive. Well, even not that expensive outside of Judge. It's just, the Yankees haven't won a lot of slates for a lot of people in a while, but I do think this is a good opportunity for them for us to take a shot on them. And that's what I'm probably going to do. I'm not going to get to Clark Schmidt, although I think you could throw him into the mix with all those other guys, but I think I like the other guys better. So I do think the Yankees are totally viable to me. Yeah,
Yankees are one of my top stacks as well, both on DraftKings and on FanDuel. Toussaint has actually been somewhat stingy this year.
Yeah, he has been okay.
But as you said, there isn't a lot to do hitting wise, so I don't need to be that greedy. I would instinctively, I would think Schmidt should be a good play, right? Because he's a righty against the White Sox, and also it's a pretty good spot to go to take a picture like following Cole. You know what I mean? Like it's just a totally different look that the White Sox will be getting. So I'm gonna throw Schmidt into the hopper. You know what I mean? As far as guys, I might go for my SP2. And so that's it. So definitely Yankees and maybe some Schmidt.
Yep, it certainly makes sense to me. All right, you want to start off the next one real quick? I think it's the Angels.
Yeah. So I talked about this in a couple of streams recently. That one of the keys is to know, or to at least have an idea of when you want to rely on your projections and when you want to just ignore them. And to me, this looks like a perfect example. Like Giolito is projected for like 12 fantasy points or something like that. I don't know what it is. He's coming off of -13, which doesn't even exist because it was against Atlanta, right? And I just know he's got upside. And I think he's a very reasonable pivot here off of everything. So I'm going to throw him. I'm going to throw him in my mix. and see what happens. I mean, so far we haven't really gotten any great pitchers. There'll be one we'll get to later, but we haven't really gotten anything great. And he could put up 30. So I am definitely including him in my mix. As far as anything else in this game, I don't really have much of anything.
Yeah, and by the way, I agree that he should be in the mix. I actually think he'll get some ownership on FanDuel because of the price over there, and it's been a good matchup this year, San Francisco. But I think San Francisco is actually an interesting contrarian stack today. We've seen Giolito just really struggle certain games where he can't find the plate at all, and they're hitting everything that's anywhere near the plate. I think it's probably worth taking a shot on San Francisco. Every stadium is a stadium upgrade for them. They get to play in 75-degree weather instead of 45-degree weather. I don't mind the idea of playing a little San Francisco or a little bit of the Angels. Neither of them rate out to be like great stacks or anything, but I think that they're both viable enough. I would probably side more with San Francisco, but just throwing it out there as a potential something else to do.
I mean, the other thing I would say also, though, is that San Francisco has never – I don't know if San Francisco's ever faced Giolito ever. Doesn't seem like it, and it's funny. I thought about that when some of these trades happened, like these pitchers switching leagues. And one thing that I saw was really funny is that the Flaherty Montgomerys, like they couldn't get anybody. Not they couldn't get anybody out there. Which just kind of like always seemed to struggle in St. Louis. They went to the American League and like no one could hit them like their first start. It was like
it is interesting. No, I take that stuff into account, and I'm just going to take a quick look. I mean, I can't imagine they would have seen it much because they don't have anybody from the White Sox. Hardly anybody from the American League that transferred over. Let me just see real quick if he's got any experience.
All I know is they are going to load up all these lefties against him.
That's true. Yeah, there's plenty of lefties to throw against him.
I know Jock Peterson will probably have a plus 200 home run prop. You know what I mean? Like or something.
Yeah. All right. So jump off real quickly with the next one. What is it? Texas Oakland.
Yeah. So this is the top play on the slate. Scherzer at 10-8 for me is just clearly above everybody else, and he's going to be really well owned as a result of it. And on the other side of it, I do actually have just again, Sears as a one out of 8 SP2s. I have him just in play just because of price. I am not getting to Texas today. As far as hitting goes, it would seem instinctively they're a team I'd always kind of want to play, but I'm just not getting to them today. And certainly I'm not getting to the Oakland bats.
Yeah, I have Scherzer as the top pitching option on the slate. He's going to be really, really popular. So if you wanted to go a different route and spend down, maybe there's some argument for it. It's hard, though. It's a premium matchup, and it's actually gotten colder again. Oakland, I don't understand how it can be 100 degrees everywhere in California, but for some reason in Oakland, it's only 60. I like Scherzer. I'm not as high on Texas today. I have no problem if you ever, Texas is like sort of one of those teams you can always stack, and it didn't work out for me last night, but I have no problem if you want to go back to them today. You've got some cheap options down at the bottom of the order that you're going to be able to get in there. So it's fine, but I like Scherzer. The question is just, are you able to pay that much? And the answer so far seems to be yes, because we haven't liked any stacks all that much. The only thing I'd say about Scherzer this year is we know he's got the upside. He's had some upside games, but not like those crazy ones we used to see from him where it would be like he'd put up like 45s and 50s and stuff like that. So we haven't seen like one of the insane, outrageous Scherzer games in a while, but I still think he's clearly the top play on the slate.
And then we on to this next game, and this is, I imagine, somebody we're going to want to consider if we don't want to play Scherzer with some of the cheapos is Logan Gilbert. He's just because he can put up a number, like we haven't really come to anybody with the exception of obviously Valdez can always put up a number, right? And obviously we talked about Giolito, but Giolito's kind of like, we're just being a wise guy, and like he's like, we're just praying he puts up a number. I mean, Logan Gilbert reasonably can, have 20 to 30 points in this game. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's Soto and whoever else. I mean, Gilbert's a good pitcher. I mean, this is one I'm probably going to have to force in if my projections don't get to him. So Gilbert, and I'm not getting to any of the hitting.
Yeah, I'm okay with Gilbert, and I have Seattle as another one of the stacks that you can get a little weird with tonight. So I don't mind. Sort of similar to San Francisco to me. I think you could definitely take a shot on stacking them against Martinez. You do have a good bullpen behind them. Maybe it's more of a mini stack, but you're going to have Canzone in there at 2,400, probably most likely. Suarez up to 39, still pretty cheap. Ty France 31 and Teoscar 36. There's some cheap spots here. I think they're an interesting mini stack.
All right, so I'll start with this. If you didn't like any of that, you could just go ahead and just play Urias and the Dodgers. I mean, and I think you're just totally well within your rights. You have a righty for Arizona against the Dodgers. I mean, they're probably really expensive, which is why they're not showing up in any of my metrics here. They're actually showing up as really good plays on FanDuel, actually. I guess they're much cheaper over there.
Mm-hmm.
And Urias is another. I mean, who's to say that Urias isn't going to outscore Scherzer? For God's sake. I mean, listen, he's had some fishy games, but he's still Urias, you know. So I think that this is almost makes me want to do a live sweat tonight because I know I'm going to want some either Scherzer or the Dodgers or both, you know. So these are the guys I'm going to probably be rooting for. I guess when you think about it, Bobby, isn't this just what we want to do? I mean, don't we just want to? We haven't looked at any good hitting pretty much the whole day.
Yeah.
And you have a rookie or whatever, second-year guy who's a righty against it. I mean, I don't know about the roof and all that stuff, but overall, it just seems like an overall weak slate. So I don't know. I think I'm kind of down with that.
Yeah, I mean, the roof, I'm sure it'll be closed. I don't even want to bother checking. I know it's 100.
Yeah, right, exactly. Don't talk yourself off because of the roof, right?
Yeah, and I actually think they'll get like a little bit of ownership, but it can't all be owned because the pricing, it just doesn't. It's not possible. So I'm on board completely with the Dodgers stack. They're also, I mean, not saying anything, but they've been hitting the ball. And the only problem, as I mention all the time with the Dodgers stack, is you just have a bunch of guys like Hayward, Peralta, probably not Rojas, but certain situations, maybe he loses one at bat. Outman.
Yeah, I know. We can play.
There's just a lot of guys who you are cheap, but then you also, if they do bring a lefty in, that turns into Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez. You know what I mean? The lineup just completely flips half of the lineup, basically. So it's just a little bit tricky, but I do think the Dodgers are one of the top stacks, and I will be happy to play them myself.
Yeah, can you play them though on DraftKings? Now I'm looking at these prices. I mean,
you can if you spend down, and also I like the idea of Urias, by the way, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the one guy I know you could play Muncy
because he's more reasonable.
Sort of reasonable, right?
Well, Muncy and JD Martinez. I mean, Martinez is the one you'd want over Muncy, I think, in general.
Oh, even though it's a righty, and okay,
it doesn't have anything to do with it. Martinez just outperforms him by a ton.
Okay.
Muncy's problem for DFS in general is that he walks a lot, which is good which is fine for stacks, but it's not good for other stuff. But I mean, both of those guys are legitimate, and we don't know if JD Martinez is for sure going to be in the lineup tonight. So keep an eye out for that.
When does Gavin Lux come back? God's sake.
Well, I mean, like what is like the thing is with him, I don't even know what's going to happen. He's got so many mental issues that I don't know where he ends up.
I just want all those lefties in. I want Bellinger back.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Bellinger, and by the way, there's another guy named Corey Seager who would have been nice to have on your team as well.
Yeah, but Bellinger hit like 100 for the Dodgers his last 2 years, and now he doesn't make out.
I know. But he did. In all fairness, he did it 1 year before, and then he won the MVP or came in second weeks year. So. Yeah. So yeah, it is kind of a weird slate for a big spread out one. Maybe a good one for the max entry type of thing. I have the pitching priorities as somewhere Scherzer and somewhere between Gilbert, Urias, if at the high end, maybe Giolito, and at the low end, I think I like Singer, Crawford, Tyon, and maybe Grayson Rodriguez the best. But honestly, the only priority I have there is Scherzer, which makes me think he's going to be even higher owned. Cubs, Yankees, and Dodgers are my favorite three stacks. Also would be getting to some Atlanta, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, and Seattle. That's
all right. So I actually have a bit of advice for people. So if you play stuff, if you play Scherzer lineups with like stuff in the early games, and it's not like exactly going the way you want, I would swap Scherzer to Urias. They both start at 940. and then just figure it out. Like play somebody in the later games that you can make that doable or whatever. And I would definitely do that. You can't go to that last game with like without a really good lineup and have Scherzer left. You know what I mean? Because he's going to be like 1,000,000% open.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's all you could do. You have like if you played like a Scherzer with. No, I was going to say. What are people going to do? You're going to play Scherzer with what? What are they going to? Who do you think is going to be the second most owned? Forget my projections. Like, what do you think is actually going to happen?
I honestly don't have any idea for it right now because it does feel like a pretty spread out situation to me.
Let's see. Let me run one. Let's see what this does. Let's use this. Let me see what this. Okay, let's run 150. Let's see what. I guess it's going to jam in Scherzer, and it's going to be the same thing. It's going to go Scherzer, Valdez, and then the Royals. I'm going to lose my mind if that's what they do, or the Mets. Scherzer, Valdez, and Mets. Watch this. Here it comes. It's definitely be Scherzer and somebody. Scherzer, maybe it'll pay down for Toussaint or something like that. That could be another thing.
Yeah.
Let's just see what happens. Okay, finalizing lineups. It looks like a bunch of KC and the Cubs, like I said. All right, so let's see how it actually. All this KC every freaking day. All right, so let's see. And Grayson Rodriguez is the top one. There's Toussaint, the second lineup listed. All right, let's see. First of all, for stack types, we won't mess with that now. Top stacks were the Cubs and Kansas City. Cubs, Kansas City, and Boston. And as far as pitching, it is only 60. And there, as I advertised, Touki Toussaint, 28%.
Wow, there it is, huh?
Yep. And then Logan Gilbert.
Touki Toussaint. All right.
Yeah, someone else can do that, I think.
I don't know. Maybe
I wouldn't for that price. I mean, like
Gavin Williams was the highest scoring player on the slate yesterday.
Yeah. Well, he didn't outscore Peralta, but
he did.
Maybe he didn't actually. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
38 is pretty good. I think you were pretty close though.
And again, who would I rather play if I had to go down there? I mean, would I rather play Singer? That's even more expensive, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit fishy as far as all that goes.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't have a great and we do have the Goldie ownership back today. Like, yeah, you got nobody projected early projections, of course, but like no other pitcher on DraftKings projected above 17% other than Scherzer. That's kind of like crazy. You don't see that very often. Yeah, so I really think that SP2 is probably going to be a big decider in who wins tonight.
Well, let me just see what the most 5-man stacks are. The Cubs.
Yeah,
and I wonder if the Cubs are even getting the Bellingers or not, because the Bellingers 5,200. Everybody else is really cheap.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see what these look like. Cubs. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Let's see what some of these looks like. Crawford and Scherzer. Oh, yeah, because you're getting Candelario at 4K, Happ at 3,400. That's it. It's Scherzer and a cheapo. That's just what it is. That's what people are going to do. Yeah,
that's what I think you're going to see a lot of tonight. So
I might be joining them. I don't know.
Maybe. And by the way, after all that, maybe it's not the worst idea in the world to play Scherzer and Valdez and something.
You love doing that. You love it.
I mean, it just makes enough sense tonight. Right? I don't know. Like, who else? How else am I going to play?
Right.
All right. Well,
you want to play Toussaint and Schmidt in the same game. There it is.
Oh God. It's going to be a weird one. Anyway, good luck to everybody. I hope you guys have a great night. We'll see you live at 6 Eastern.
Yep.
There is an outside chance I may be a few minutes late. Sorry, guys. I'm running in and out. I tried to get all my doctor stuff done at once, which means, as anybody knows who goes to the doctor, especially as you get older, the more doctor's appointments you go to, the more you have to go to afterwards. Like, it's like one doctor will set you up with 3 other doctors, and it's just like freaking annoying.
Yep.
Anyway, but hopefully all in good health. Anyway, good luck, and we'll see you guys